Hey guys, EST here with a very relevant video to today, May 18th, 2021, where we're kind of coming off the end of a bit of a fuel shortage in parts of the country. It was a very minor, very temporary thing made very worse by people running out and, well, panic buying for lack of a better term. So let's just start with that. The best way to be totally set during a shortage of any kind of important supply is to just beat everybody to it. And the best way to beat everybody to it is don't even wait for it to be an issue. If you're just sitting there one random day and you're like, you know what, I should have, 92 rolls of toilet paper. Let's go spend $40 at, some bulk store. That is the correct time to buy it. Not, oh, I heard that there might be a shortage on this due to COVID. No, then it's almost too late. Although, get out there and jump on it as soon as possible if you're like, ooh, that's a blind spot. Yeah, I don't have that. Now, keep in mind, you don't, need toilet paper. You don't need it to live, but almost nothing else is flushable, and who wants to go dig a ditch outside? So, a high inconvenience. It's, I would probably equate it to, I just bought a while ago, 50 toothbrushes, because it was, $9. I just got some bulk whatever ones, and, think about it. An extended grid down scenario, you're going to want some clean teeth because they are never getting cleaned again at a dentist. And you got a tooth infection, you get get really messed up on hard liquor and then have somebody pull it with no anesthetic. Yeah. The time to stock up on toothbrushes and toothpaste is before the problem starts. The same with medications, the same with first aid gear, the same with food, the same with, paper towels, plastic cutlery, everything. If you've got the space, and honestly, you should prioritize the space, just add a little bit of a buffer into your rotation of stuff you normally buy. Don't just think, oh, we're out of our 48 pack of whatever, I'm going to run to the store. You should have 2 more 48 packs, and every time you take one off the shelf, then you go replace it then. So like I said, you have a buffer. And that just goes across the board to everything except for fuel, because it's just not safe to store fuel anywhere. And ethanol heavy fuel, so 10% ethanol fuel, that stuff can go bad to an extent. I wouldn't really say bad, but if you leave it sitting and then pour it straight into your gas tank after about 3 months, you might have some problems, but it's only because the ethanol goes to the bottom and then you've got pure gasoline on the top or something like that. I don't know how that would be a problem. Oh, great, high octane, whatever. But when you get to the bottom and you've got a 50-50 mix, now you've got a problem. So you can just kind of shake it up, though. I mean, that's the thing. And fuel stabilizer, I think, does a better mix. But that stuff is supposed to keep gasoline from turning, I think, acidic or something, like an actual chemical change, a chemical breakdown due to heat and potentially UV light. From the gasoline molecule, which is an 8-chain hydrocarbon. Very large, very complex molecule, very sensitive to breakdown. In other words, flammable. But it can break down slowly, and as soon as you hit 83, 82 octane, that thing ain't gonna fire in your engine. So storing gasoline is difficult, it's dangerous, it's not a good idea, and fuel stabilizer is kind of expensive, it doesn't work perfectly. So I know diesel stores better though, so I will mention that. But still, do you really want 20, 30, 50 gallons of highly flammable, glorified explosives in your garage? It's not worth the risk. So I would advise people against that. Although, I mean, if you get, 2 little tubs, 2 little portable 2-3 gallon things for your snowblower and your lawnmower, and you put ethanol-free 91 in there, or 93 if you can find it, octane, and a couple drops of fuel stabilizer, it'll, get you for about a year or two. It's okay, you got a little emergency reserve, but then also you're obviously going to use it for your snowblower and your lawnmower if you live in a place with snow. So you got a little buffer, and it's you need it anyway. You need at least 1 container, so you might as well just make it 2, whatever, make sure it's a certified, safe, proper container, properly vented, that kind of stuff. Pour safe filters, static proof, none of those old school metal containers, none of that. So if you just always had that, you could always put ethanol 391 stabilized fuel in your car and you'll be extremely fine. Now keep in mind, 2-3 gallons, what is that going to get you? 30 to 100 miles depending upon your car? It's not nothing, but it's pretty dang close if you got a 14-gallon tank. So that's why I wanted to hit so heavily on storage, because people are well, that's simple. I'll just tackle it the same way I do with food and medical supplies and all that. I'll just have a whole bunch of it on hand. It's just not worth the risk. So I'm going to propose all kinds of things that kind of dance around that don't threaten your safety. So some of these are more elaborate than the others. I'll start with a really simple one. Just move closer to work. If you're pretty sure that you've been there for a while, you're probably not going to get fired, you like the job, you're not going to quit, and you live 30 to 40 minutes away from your work or longer, you are losing so much. Probably with the average person, 1/5 to 1/10 of your annual salary in travel expenses and depreciation to your car by the mile and maintenance and fuel. Yeah, like 1/10 of your salary down the toilet. Unless you've got like some, $3,000 junker like I do. I could drive that thing another 50,000 miles. It'll probably cost me $500 in depreciation. But maintenance does start to be a thing at that point. So just, move closer. I mean, you should live where you want to live, but it's like the number one most valuable thing you have in your life is time. And if you don't want to waste 1 to 2 hours commuting every day of your time away from your family doing nothing in aggravating traffic with weather delays, crashes, and construction, then just live in a smaller house, live in a different area that's not quite as nice. I mean, I'm not saying move to a high crime area in the middle of the city and rent an apartment but I mean, if you just happen to take a job one city over, maybe give it a year and then move actually to that city. Moving sucks, but I mean, it's a fresh start where you can, repaint everything, redecorate, and, maybe get a slightly bigger, slightly smaller place, bigger yard, more room for a garden, better sunlight for a garden. You never know. There's usually positives and negatives, and a lot of people just see, oh, moving's a lot of work, I don't want to do it. But you're going to use a lot less fuel going to work if you live, 5 minutes away instead of like an hour. So just consider that. So if there's a little bit of a fuel pinch, then, you can go to work 50 more times on your gas tank instead of like 3 more times. And then whoopsies, I'm burning vacation days or working from home because I literally can't drive my car. And also because I went into work, now we're completely out of fuel in case of an emergency. Well, not going anywhere now. Sure hope you don't have to go to the hospital. So there's one I'll touch on. I'm not an expert at this, but like a biodiesel generator where you like build a bunch of plants and do something to them to turn them into oil, and then something about filtering, and then you put it in your diesel vehicle. Okay, cool. I mean, yeah. This ain't the channel to learn about that. I know next to nothing about it. So I guess, yeah, be able to make your own fuel. Shocker, that would help in a fuel shortage. I know. That and obviously, buy an electric vehicle, but Teslas have such a high defect rate, I wouldn't even consider it a reliable source of transportation if there's like a grid down or a big shortage or like an incident, a weather event. Those things honestly, like on average, break down like every couple months. Like legit. Like they have a major problem at least once a year. Look up the Consumer Reports. They are terrible cars. So if you had like a nice solar wall and you're like, cool, I have the unlimited, ability to go anywhere until the battery packs fail 10 years from now. Haha, I can travel when nobody else can. Until your Tesla breaks down, which is going to be very, very, very soon. Well, let's get back to practical steps here instead of making fun of people thinking they got this down. Number one, this is for safety, security, and just evacuation reasons and everything. Every prepper will tell you this. When your car's gas tank is at half, it is empty. Go fill it up. If you're riding that E, but you're like, we're good. I mean, another 40 miles, that's fine. I'm fine. And then there's like a forest fire, and you're like, oh man, all the gas stations are closed now. I'm like stuck. Like, I can't move. Or like, oh, the winter storm killed all the electricity, and now, oh crap, we got 30 to empty. Oops. And by the way, that's not a great time to steal the gas from the snowblower. Just saying, you might need it. So never let your tank get less than half. Just real simple. If it's at half, roll into the gas station, fill up. Because like in my car, then I at all times can go like, I think 170, 200 miles, some in that neighborhood. It's just one of those, feel good peace of mind things where it's just one more thing where you just add it to your like, weekly routine, and you're like, this is now how I do things. This is the new procedure, and I'm safer because of that. And then stack it up with like, don't unlock your doors with the key fob until you're within touching distance of your car. It's just a daily safety thing. It's going to keep somebody from, running up, stealing a phone off your front seat and running away while you're 50 feet away because you wanted to see how far away you can unlock your car from. It's just one of those dumb things where if you're like, this is now my new procedure, I'm going to start doing this, that you're like, man, I do like 50 things that keep me safer, and they're all very reasonable. And like, okay, all right. Now I don't feel like, oh, anything could happen anytime and I'll be unprepared. Just up your personal safety one step at a time. I always love stuff like that. Like have a solar powered USB, little panel, battery bank, whatever for your phone in case the power's out. That way you can always use your phone. There you go. Keep $40 cash in your car in case you forget your wallet somewhere. There you go. Peace of mind, safety thing. You implement all this stuff and you just start realizing your life gets a lot easier and you're a lot safer and you're a lot more prepared with very passive, easy stuff. A lot of people are like, I need a $2,000 water filter and I need it now once they first get into like disaster preparedness, and that's not the first place I would go. I would start small, unless you got a ton of money, which is why I tend to focus on the small things on the channel. So plug for me, go subscribe and watch the other stuff I got. So back to fuel, whether you want to use it often or not, it is good exercise, just saying, low impact on the joints, buy a bicycle. I went to the pawn shop at the end of season, especially if you're on a budget, go at like, fall. and just buy a general cheap, like a Mongoose, like on-road, off-road, light frame mountain bike. Test it out, make sure it's good, and spend $10 on a bike pump. A manual bike pump, not an electric one. Oh, for the tires. You don't pump up the bike, you pump up the bike tires. Boom, you're all set. There you go. Probably one of the most underappreciated historic inventions in all of human history was the bicycle. I mean, like, if you start looking up how important it was to, like, economies and, like, farmers and armies, I mean, people kept thinking, like, how many horses could we reasonably have? But people are like, well, I have to go places and cars are expensive and people just didn't have them. And then the bicycle came out and all of a sudden people could go like 50 miles by themselves on, in a day with just like food as fuel, basically. The bicycle runs on food because you're the engine. It was such an unbelievably important, significant thing to history because now everybody was mobile. It was like equivalent to the invention of cars, but at the time more important than cars. So if you don't own one of the most historically significant ways to move yourself, one of the best modes of transportation ever invented, hands down, period, you're out of your mind. And I know, okay, apartment people, you don't have the best place to store it and, this and that. I'm just saying, if you got the room somewhere, your basement, your garage, hung upside down on hooks, I mean, just whatever, have it as an option. And even if you're horribly out of shape and then just have to jump on your bike because fuel shortage, with the gearing on them, I mean, you get like a 21 gear bike. Boy, I mean, you just cut the speed in half and you can go miles and miles and miles almost regardless of how out of shape you are. In shape, oh my gosh, I think you could probably hit 100 miles in a day on them, especially with nobody on the roads, just saying. So always have a backup mode of transportation. And I mean, what else is there? Like, I mean, electric scooter. That's great if you got a place to charge it, I guess. A horse? I mean, like, what else is there? Like a skateboard, roller skates? I mean, those are way less efficient than a bike. So, yeah, definitely acquire one, just for dirt cheap. Those things are floating around everywhere. Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, pawn shops. And like I said, if you really, really don't want to blow like 150 on a good used bike, just get whatever's left at the end of, the season or buy a nice bike at the end of season for like, 75% off because pawn shops and resale shops and all them, they want to get rid of them. Assuming you live somewhere that has seasons. And if you're still adamantly against dropping money on a bike right now, when it comes to, oh, I heard about a fuel shortage, let's beat everyone to it, yeah, do probably go fill up when there's even the faintest hint of an issue, but also beat everybody to the bicycle shops before they start getting scalped. Worst case scenario, especially if you buy it multiple, just saying, you can become the scalper. I mean, scalper's like $500 a bicycle, and you're like, I don't know, 200. It's an okay one. That's like double normal price for it. Then you'd be seen as a very reasonable, like you're helping out the community scalper that's making 2-to-1 profit. I mean, February 2020, I went out and I bought a monstrous amount of ammo, cleaning chemicals, hand sanitizer, because I'm just like, okay, long incubation period, it can't be stopped, and it's already cross-country borders. Yep, this is going to hit the U.S. at some point. This is what we heard about for a nightmare scenario, potentially, in health class. Long incubation and asymptomatic spread. If this thing had a higher lethality rate, oh my god, it would have just about ended society. So I was able to sell off the ammo and about 75% of my hand sanitizer at like a slightly above retail, like a reasonable price, and actually a fairly reasonable markup in my opinion, considering I bought it in bulk. Man, I got cases of that stuff. I had gloves, I had Lysol, I mean, I spent maybe $500 on it. And then another $500 on ammo, and I was able to at least triple up on it. I made quite a lot of money. But I don't think of it as like, I'm going to take advantage of people, or the rich people had it coming because I was prepared and they weren't, so they're dumb and they can pay me. I'm more like, I'm making this available to my friends and family and community and screw everybody outside of my community. Like, okay, my local area is set. So if there's a fuel shortage, you're like, wow, there's starting to be signs on gas stations. We're just starting to hear about that. That's when I would take the step of going out to at least get a bicycle for everybody in your family real quick. Because remember, you can always flip bikes. And especially if you buy it on the used market for $50, you can probably get $50 for it on the used market to anybody else at any other time normally. So you're really just kind of borrowing the money to the bike, or you're tying it up in an asset. You're not really spending money. You're not losing money unless you buy it new and sell it used, which is incredibly stupid. So get ahead of people, and in some cases, we're not just talking the gas station, we're talking get an entire step ahead of people. And I would say if you're starting to hear about issues and they're getting closer to where you live and you're like, this might become a problem where I am, go run out and get everything you need done. I mean, every task, especially the further away, the better, and then fill up. If you're like, I have been putting off that haircut and we're going to need to pick up, this at some point and bring in the lawnmower for servicing and, just like go do it. Just run every errand that involves driving while you still have the fuel and then top it off and then start not going anywhere that you absolutely don't need to. Because, why go to the dog park with your dog when you can just go around the block and your dog will be almost as happy when you might need that fuel later to like go somewhere extremely important, like the grocery store, like the hospital, or just away from your area. Now, the next thing is, if it's already happening, watch unbiased news sources. So really nothing on 24-hour news channels on cable. They all have a bias. They're all going to tell you what you want to hear. And the amount of just sheer willful lies is amazing coming out of some of them compared to like 20 years ago. You don't want to hear what they want you to think and what they want you to feel. You want to hear facts. You want to hear reality. You do not want unreliable sources when a situation is very important. So go to, unbiased YouTubers. Everybody's got their bias, but ones that will like tell you the truth and then comment on it. And maybe you agree with them, maybe you don't. But somebody who has like a long history of telling the truth, and there's a ton of them out there. I'm not even gonna start naming them because there's so many. Other than that, maybe the Associated Press, because they're just an amalgamator and they don't have a bias or an agenda, but I don't know. Let me go to their website right now. Yeah, it's pretty much plastered on the homepage with liberal bullshit. So, yeah, maybe not them. 10 years ago, I would have said NPR, but, nope. Okay, there's not many left, but like, just be careful where you get your news from. And at this point, just check multiple sources. Like, even like independent YouTubers who tend to, cover the news and really research stuff and make sure stuff's true and call out other, news agencies for not saying the truth. They'll be first in line if they're a respectable source to say, don't just listen to me. I might have a bad take on this and our researchers can only do so much, Like right now, if you want to know what's really going on with the fuel shortage, I would watch like Tim Pool's channel. He's been covering it like, here's what's really happening. Well, they've said this, but this isn't true. Well, here's the actual timeline. Like here's actual provable facts. We're citing our source to back it up, that kind of stuff. I disagree with Tim on just about everything social, but, whatever. Like, he speaks the truth and he says facts, so I watch him. It's like, who else is there going to be? So, okay, there, I did shout one out. So if you were watching CNN this whole last, 2 weeks and you live in North Carolina, you would have heard them tell you to your face, there are no gas station shutdowns, there are no lines. Well, there were shutdowns and there were lines, and now it's over 75% of all gas stations. And the lines are ridiculous. There's fights breaking out, and there's people running out of fuel in line, and cops having to show up, and it's, yeah. Don't listen to CNN. All they say is lies. They just, we don't want people to panic, and a gas shortage would make Biden look weak, so we're going to lie to people. Like, that's literally the thought process. Don't listen to a word that those idiots say. Same for MSNBC. So, like, during a shortage of any type, be very careful where you get your information. That is the huge point I'm making here. Because if people tell you, like here's a huge one. Anthony Fauci came out and told people early on, you don't need a mask, they won't do anything. Look at any study from Asia over the last 10 years. They're practically just like a cultural, social thing where people are like, it's a symbol. It doesn't actually functionally do anything according to the majority of tests. And then he comes out in an interview like 8 months later and is like, I told people that because we didn't want a big run on them that would cause a shortage because I wanted there to be enough masks for hospital staff. He literally came out and said, I lied to the American people and told them the opposite of what was true so that they took a dangerous course of action and didn't protect themselves so that somebody else could benefit or so that they didn't cause harm to that group. Okay, well, you're not a reliable source, so wow. I get it. He thinks the end justifies the means, but I want to hear the truth. And usually you have to stay away from the big anything and go to the small distributed anything on any platform. Just remember, as soon as you hit the internet, there's just morons and conspiracy theory idiots and just rumors taking off that aren't even true and just absolute lunatics who shouldn't even have a computer. So you got to dodge that too. Try to land right in the middle. You want real numbers about when is the food going to run out? When is the fuel going to run out? When is the medicine going to run out? Is this real? Is this sensational? Is this a dumb clickbait headline? You probably heard recently, somebody released 1,000 cats into, Chicago to help control the rat population? People are like, 1,000 cats, that's crazy. Oh, well, that's like since 1997 cumulatively, and also they were all spayed and neutered, so it's a complete and utter non-story, but there was nothing going on that day, so they manufactured a bullshit headline. That's another example of, that is now not a reliable source, and I think that was probably the New York Times. It is now directly affecting you during a fuel shortage to know how long the fuel shortage is going to be. if it's bad in your area, if it's about to get bad, if it's about to get better. You need real facts or you're going to start making, the wrong decisions based on bad information. And that is a good way to spiral into a bad, like a worse situation. Like now you're out of fuel or you're paying, scalper prices or something. Or you're buying fake fuel on the black market from some guy in a truck and then it turned out it was diesel and now you wrecked your engine. Just don't get into that situation in the first place. I mean, if you would have heard the truth, they are planning to turn it right back on. We're talking 2-3 weeks tops on this fuel shortage. Okay, there you go. Then work with that knowledge, which it turned out was true. Once you have good information, you can make good decisions. If you have bad information, you're going to make dumb, self-destructive decisions just without knowing it. So information is key. That is absolutely key. I mean, I was just at the mass shooting at the casino in Green Bay, like last month. Yeah, I was there when it happened. Like gunshots whizzing just about past me. It was a couple 100 feet in front of me. And people were like, I heard it was a bomb. And I'm like, who'd you hear that from? Oh, the guy next to me. Where'd they hear it from? I don't know. Well, it turns out it wasn't a bomb and they weren't a good source of information and a bunch of misinformation was flying around. Let's say I believed them. Okay. I'd be outside in the parking lot and they told us all to go back inside the building when they heard that the gunman was making his way outside or had made his way outside. If I said, no, I heard it was a bomb and I don't believe you. I don't think it's a shooter. I think it's a bomb. I'm not going back inside. Well, he made it from the parking garage almost to the woods before the cops shot him, so he was outside and he was right where I would have been. So if I would have believed the bomb threat thing and said, you know what, I'm going to hang out here actually. I'm not going to go back inside because that's insane. That's where the bomb is. I don't want the building collapsing on me. Well, then I would have been put in more danger. So watch your sources, be careful, believe your own eyes, believe your own, amalgamated multiple sources, people in authority, people who can back up their stuff with facts, proof, photographs, real numbers, statistics. In any bad scenario, you've got to use good information to make good decisions. I cannot stress that enough. And if you want to know when to fill up, if it's going to be a problem, if you should go out and panic buy with everybody else, or if it's like not a problem, or, should you arrange to work from home and try and set that up, or are you going to be good by next week? Is the problem going to be alleviated by then and the shipments will resume? I mean, this is like career stuff. This is like getting paid stuff. This is like getting your kids to school stuff. If you don't know when the fuel shortage is going to end, you're going to say, well, sorry, kids, we got half a tank left. I don't know what I can fill up, so you're walking to school. Well, kids walking to school is not the safest thing in the world, especially since by law, and especially when they get to school, they can't be armed in any way, even with pepper spray. So if you start making that decision, and then next week you're good, well, you just endangered your kids for a week for no reason on bad information because somebody told you, oh, it's going to be a month. Now, this is the fuel shortage video, but I am expanding it to like shortages of other stuff whenever I feel I have a relevant, something to toss in that's similar. And so one thing I would throw in is like, if it's a regional shortage and it's about to expand, nationwide or global because it's a regional shortage, remember rule number 1, be ahead of everyone else, act first. If there's about to be a shortage on, toothpaste, you don't really need it to live, but I mean, you do need it. Your health will be severely impacted if you ran out of toothpaste and didn't have a backup like baking soda or alcohol-based mouthwash. But let's say all 3 of them are short because, I don't know, who makes that? Procter & Gamble? I don't know, their factory blew up. Oh, but they only make stuff for the Southwest and you live in the Southwest. That's when you should think, okay, this is obviously going to go nationwide within like a month as the supply chain kind of dries up because people around my area when they run out are going to start sourcing it online. They're going to hit eBay, they're going to hit Amazon, they're going to hit, Newegg for electronics, and they're going to start shipping it, from New York to California or whatever. So yeah, only, my state and the surrounding states are starting to hear rumblings of like, dental hygienic items running low, but everywhere else is good. Like, I contacted a friend or whatever who's out in Michigan and they said it's fine. That's when you want to jump on it. When you know it's going to go from regional to worse, that's when you go either national or international. You go long distance and you start ordering stuff in, triple the quantity you normally would. So you can't exactly just go on Amazon and buy 50 gallons of gasoline, although saying that, you probably can. Okay, I would hope not because of shipping hazards, but you can't order gasoline like it's toothbrushes or toothpaste, okay? Somebody can put it in a box and send it across the country, no problem. Gasoline is a little more complicated, so you can't just go out and get that from real far away. But if it is something that there's about to be a shortage on, it's important, and you can get it from far away, do it. Watch out for scammers, watch out for scalpers, watch out for counterfeits. But if it's just, wow, all the stores in my area, at least in my city, region, my state, whatever, are out of toothpaste, go on Amazon, go on eBay, buy a 12-pack of toothpaste and ship it from anywhere else and then laugh at everyone else who wasn't as smart and fast as you and reactive when it goes nationwide. And then hopefully you'll have enough of whatever it is until it recovers. I know during the pandemic when they said international shipping was being limited, I just knew because I'm aware of where the stuff in my house comes from, which is another little tip for you. I knew that I'm pretty sure nobody in America makes cetirizine hydrochloride, also known as Zyrtec allergy medication. Oh, it's a cetirizine, pardon me. It's not just a comfort thing. My allergies are so severe, I need that to, live. So I bought 5 years worth. Yes, expiration dates, and I use that in little air quotes, are a little bit more of a hard issue, like a hard limit than food, because it's not an expiration date, then it's a best buy date. Temperature stabilized, humidity stabilized, oxygen-free environments inside a Mylar sealed up. I bet you that'll be good for 10 to 20 years. So I bought it in bulk, I bought it generic, and I paid like $20 per full year. It was like $100 for 5 years worth of medication. So I'm set. There could be a 5-year shortage on this stuff and I'm set. Hell, I would take a year of it and scalp it if it hit a high enough price. I mean, I would literally rather be dead than not have it because my allergies are that bad. I would just be scratching my skin till it bleeds after about 48 hours without it. Not to mention barely able to breathe. Like, my allergies are berserk. But if I had 5 years worth and everybody agreed that it was only going to be a 1 year shortage, you're damn right I'd flip 1 to 2 years worth of that for triple the price. Plus, it's selfish to keep it all to yourself if you know somebody else needs it, like hardcore needs it. You're helping them and they're helping your wallet. It's very mutually beneficial. Not all scalping is dickishness. I mean, if you walk into the last store that has it, buy up the entire shelf of toilet paper and then set up a little table in their own parking lot selling it for double, you are not providing any value. You are a parasite. You are a terrible person. That's just, ooh, I got there first, but not by much. Here, now you have to go through me. Ha ha ha, I'm a greedy dick. Seeing something coming by a few months, stocking up, and then having some to sell at a slight premium to your community to start helping people out, that is the polar opposite. I dropped off an entire box of hand sanitizer to the firefighters and to the homeless shelters because I was like, I made enough money and I've got an awful lot of this that I picked up because, I was smart. So yeah, I donated that stuff. And that was in spring 2020. So with gasoline, like I said, it's harder. You can't get it distantly. You can't really store large quantities of it. And if you store small quantities of it, it's an insignificant amount of distance you can get with it. It's just one of those things where the best thing you can do is see it coming, be prepared, get good information when there is a shortage, adjust accordingly, burn up all the fuel real quick, doing stuff that you would have to do later so that you don't have to do it later, and then fill up, top it off. And do everything you can to avoid it, like buy a bicycle just in case, so you can still be mobile at a basic level. I think I hit pretty much the major points. It all comes together into the best way you can get around a very, very difficult, just terrible scenario, because this is just one of the weak points that everybody has, where they're like, I gotta travel, I use my car every day, I take it for granted, and if that gets taken away all of a sudden, everything comes crashing down. Everything. You can't go pick up your medication now because you have no way of getting there. I mean, what are you going to walk 10 miles? Probably not without your medication, you're not. It's just like, oh, whatever, I'll wait for a sunny day and zip over on my bike. Okay, inconvenience, I'm going to be sweaty, but whatever. That just went from disastrous scenario with no way out, where you either have to pay ridiculous Uber prices or buy bootleg gasoline or go roll it up to the, station to wait there for 4 hours in line. You change it from that to okay, inconvenience, but I have a backup plan. So yeah, sometimes an alternate mode of transportation is just the best you can do. Whereas with food, if there's a food shortage and you're like, oh, well, what's the alternative to food? Just not eating? What is it, styrofoam? What are you gonna... Oh, if I can't get food, I'll just stock up on paper. No. At least with fuel, there are alternatives. So the one more thing I should point out, I was going to say because it's so obvious, but in case people didn't notice, whether there would have been a fuel shortage or not, legitimately, if nobody ever heard about it and they kept it all hush-hush and nobody heard about the hack and nobody heard about the pipeline shutting off, it was never public. Not that I'm saying anybody should have made that be the case, but if life just would have gone on as normal, and let's say there wouldn't have been a shortage because the trucks would have been delivering just a couple days late, just a week off, maybe 5 gas stations out of 500 would have to put up a sign or whatever because they're out. If it would have been super, super mild, then as soon as it hit the media, hey, there's shortages and there's a line at one gas station's out, or some expert that we got to say it said there's about to be a shortage and you won't have any gas, so, oh my God, go fill up now and start filling up alternate containers. If you read between the lines with the alarmist headlines on some irresponsible news outlets who just want the clicks, the people are going to make it true, okay? The panic buying, there probably never would have truly been a shortage on toilet paper, necessarily. I mean, they didn't have to shut down production facilities completely. And the supply chain is a 1 to 2 week buffer or something this ridiculously short. So maybe there would have been a minor shortage. But what made it worse and what made it really happen was everybody running out and buying toilet paper. So the same goes with gas. Now a lot of the places like CNN were like, it's all because of panic buying. This isn't even real. It never was a threat. Oh, it absolutely was. But I would estimate that probably 75 to 90% of the problems and the shortages were due to people running out and filling up like all at the same time, when normally they'd only have to fill up, once every 1 to 2 weeks. If everybody shows up on the same day, all of a sudden, I mean, that's what, 5, 10, 20 times the demand? Yeah, of course you're going to run the tanks dry. So whether a situation would have been real or would have been like, it would have just glided by, it wouldn't have been that bad, people, as soon as they hear about it, are going to cause the shortage just because people are people. Or as they say, people gonna people. It is like hardwired into our brains that if something might not be available in the future, we have to opportunistically get it right now. I mean, there was like a rumor or like a headline or something saying that like Twinkies would be discontinued by, who even owns that? Is it Little Debbie or Hostess? I think it's Hostess. They were going to no longer make them. Somebody who hasn't bought Twinkies in 5-10 years was like, oh, but I might not be able to get them ever again. And then boom, the shelves were just gone. They were hitting like $30 a pack on eBay. And then like a week later, whoever it was, Hostess, whoever came out and said, oh, well, I guess due to the outcry and also probably this was fake in the first place and we just wanted marketing. Yeah, we've changed our minds, wink, wink, nod, nod. So there never was any shortage necessarily, but the people caused it. And like, you don't need Twinkies to live. It's not flour. It's not water. It's not, bread, milk. It's not like, cooking oil. Like, it's not a very core thing that people actually really use. It's some dumb thing that honestly shouldn't even be in anybody's diet in any amount. But people just got it in their heads that, well, I might not be able to get them ever again. So just, maybe I should pick them up. Just in case, I should pick them up. I mean, I'd rather have them, than not have them. I'd rather have the option of eating them and I'll just leave them sitting around than just be out of control. I don't like things to be out of my control. That's kind of the psychology of people. So if it's fuel, I mean, you can multiply that by 1,000,000. If it was like water, food, fuel, oh, people are going to go nuts. People are going to hoard. People are going to jump on it. It is going to get real bad real quick. And we're talking same day. I mean, the speed of the internet, the speed of rumors, the speed of all that stuff, oh, it gets bad quick. If it's something frivolous and dumb, it's like, yeah, it's going to be slower. It's going to be, it's still going to be quick. But it's like people know in the back of their minds they don't need it. So it's just people who were already grocery shopping were like, oh, I heard they're going to discontinue Twinkies. Okay, last hurrah, just in case, keep them in the back of my pantry for a year. I'm going to buy a box. And then like literally everybody did that. It's not like people were outside waiting in a line and just mad dash, Black Friday, let's go at 8 a.m. to just knock over the Twinkie display. It's just, people kind of casually, gradually caused a massive shortage and a massive run on them because they knew they didn't need it. Like I said, the difference is it's way more severe, way faster, way more aggressive, and way more high strung, way more high stress, way more people acting, I guess they think rationally, but in general, antisocially at best, when it's something they really need for their daily life or to live. That's when the true panic comes out and it could be truly called a panic buy. So with fuel, yeah, I mean, the thing about like, oh wow, anywhere I have to go is now within walking on foot distance. Okay, we're buying up 10 gasoline cans at the hardware store and we're going to fill up and I'm going to store 100 gallons just in case. Like that, people start doing dumb stuff when it's an item they need. So first of all, don't be that person. Just do everything else I said in this video. And secondly, just, be prepared. Just know from experience and from watching, this channel and this video, like how bad is this going to get? Well, start asking yourself, is it regional? Is it slow? How far out ahead of everybody else am I? Am I already hearing about panic buying? Is it something, that nobody needs? It's dumb. Is it something that people kind of need? It's convenient and they use it. Or is it like something people critically need? And then just judge your actions and your response. And you're like, how immediate is this? How high on the priority list is it going based on all that information? And, do that breakdown, do the thought process, just sit down and think and just gather information from multiple sources, like I said, instead of just, oh, this is bad and I've had enough bad news, so I'm going to not think about it. Ignoring problems doesn't make them magically go away. It just means you have to deal with it with less time later. A lot of people on social media were like, I heard there might be a gas shortage, but it's just, oh, this whole year sucks and COVID, and I don't want more bad news. I don't know, it's probably false. I'm going to say it's false and what I'm hearing is false and all the facts that I'm hearing are false. because I want that to be true. So if I want it to be true, it must be true. So I'm not going to look like those fools running out to the gas station. I'm going to ignore it and just it'll probably blow over like everything else always does. If that was your thought process, 4 days later, you're probably not going into work because you're out of fuel. So don't be the dismissive person. Don't be the, well, this can't be really happening, like the denial people. Like in the instant, it's usually called normalcy bias, but over the long term, it's usually just called denial. There's some other psychological term for like, that's unpleasant, so I'm just going to not think about it. I'm going to like push that to my back of my brain and think happy thoughts. Oh yeah, escapism, obviously. Good Lord, how did I not think of that? I have problems and instead of dealing with them and thinking about them, I'm just gonna play video games and watch TV and pretend it doesn't exist. Yeah, that only serves to make stuff worse. And let me just say, the next time it comes back around where it's like, now it's either really real, it's in your face, or you're like, oh man, I kind of put this off for a week. Let's recheck into this. Ooh, the situation got worse. That's way more stressful than, okay, I worked through it like an adult. It's unpleasant, but so are a lot of things, but I thought through it. I gathered evidence. I know what's going on. I have a plan. I have bought a bicycle. I have gone to fill up. I have, whatever. I've bought a year worth of medication. I'm going to leave it on the shelf. Okay, that's peace of mind. That's not, the next time you think about it, you're like, yeah, but I'm set though. People who are just such immature, weak people that they can't like think about hard things and deal with hard situations. They just have to run away from it. Those are just quite pathetic people who are, not very successful in their lives because of it. So don't be that person. Try to work towards being the absolute opposite of that person. So yeah, to summarize the last little bit here, panic buying will make a shortage true, whether it would have been in the first place or not, and no matter what, they're going to make it worse. And don't be the, oh, this can't really be happening in my area because I haven't seen it for 30 years, normalcy bias person who then uses evasion and escapism to make the problem worse. So, I mean, I wish this video had a more simple answer, like, oh, you want to never worry about food? Learn how to garden and grow food. There you go. A little bit of dietary knowledge about amino acids and vitamins and how they work and how much you need. And there you go. You can now personally generate unlimited food for yourself. You're all set. They're just, because of how fuel is and how dangerous it is and how heavy it is and big it is and flammable it is, it just pigeonholes you into such a narrow, like there's nothing you can do right off the bat. So that's why this whole video was just like, not, oh, I have a magical device where you can just create gasoline, you can drive your car forever. Oh, switch to electric or you're a crazy idiot just waiting to be out of fuel. I don't have a perfect answer for you other than buy a bike and, watch things and react before everybody and everything else I said in this video, because that's just the best you can do. There is no better solution. And that's why fuel shortages especially are so difficult. By the way, one last thing. If you're like me and you live in an antique house with a heater that runs off, oh God, heating oil, if there's a gasoline shortage, those two, as well as like lighter fluid, hexane, high-end racing fuel, jet fuel, they all come out of the same distillation facility. So if that's the problem, is they're down, they were destroyed, they had a weather event, they had an explosion, they had a pandemic. Once you hear about gasoline shortages, go get heating fuel delivered, whether you need it or not. If they have a minimum, just say, you know what, I'll pay as if it was 100 gallons, I only need 70, but we're filling the sucker up, let's go. So watch for related products that come from the same area when a shortage of anything is going on, including fuel. It does tie into fuel as well. Just think of it as like, we're not necessarily short on gasoline, we're short on petrochemical products, distilled oil products. So like, okay, natural gas is good, we get that from other sources, and that's a different type of molecule that doesn't come from oil. But you know what? Petroleum jelly, that comes from petroleum. Thus the name. I mean, some of it's synthetic at this point. So you're like, oh man, I better go stock up on Vaseline products because I'm almost out. I mean, you don't really need Vaseline. But like, okay, that is a petrochemical related product directly. Candles, paraffin, wax, believe it or not, that comes from crude oil as far as I know. Now there are other sources, I'm kind of stretching this a little bit. A lot of wax actually comes from, I think, like beehives now. But you should learn about supply chains. So if you're like, oh, there's a sugar shortage because, I don't know, some Caribbean island had an earthquake or a war, and now sugar exports are like at zero, so there's going to be a sugar shortage. Oh no, I better go buy maple syrup. No, that comes from trees. That is a completely different sugar product from a completely different plant from a completely different country. Oh, I better, stock up on candy and other things that have, corn syrup in them. No, corn syrup comes from corn. Just granulated baking sugar. There you go. Go pick that up. That's what you should buy. So know your product groups, know your product sources, and know what products are related, what's made where, and like, if even company-wise, you can just look this up on the fly too. I mean, you don't have to learn the history of every product ever. We got this wonderful thing called like Google and Wikipedia where, once stuff starts getting bad, you can look up like, oh, I heard there was a giant explosion that took out so-and-so, Johnson & Johnson's factory. Okay, Where does that ship? Does that ship to my area? Is that a different region? What do they make? Oh, there's already a shortage on this one thing, but then they also make this, which means there's going to be a shortage on that. So just know your product groups, know your product like paths, and know what one shortage might cause another shortage. And like I said, that does apply to fuel, because there's heating fuel, there's diesel, there's car fuel, there's, a lot of fuel products that are made in the same places and transported with the same pipelines. At least this time it was a pipeline that almost entirely just does car gasoline, octane, that's it. But if there was an explosion or something, or a big issue at like a hydrocarbon, or as most people call it, an oil distillation factory or processing factory, oh my gosh, the list would be insane. Anything flammable that's basically oil-based, there you go. But then you're like, oh, should I go buy cooking oil? No, that comes from plants, 100% plant sources. But if you're into barbecuing, well, hexane is 2 down from octane. It's made at the exact same facilities. Better go buy you some lighter fluid. I mean, it's not like you need it to live, but if you run out and you're like, well, now I can't grill for 2 months, just saying, know your product groups, or at the last second, look them up. And just, that's part of being ahead of people. And that's part of the, like, I'm going to address this head on. I'm going to do the research. I'm going to do the thinking. I'm going to do the planning. I'm going to handle this logically and reasonably, instead of I'm going to put this off and pretend it's not happening because it makes me sad. So be smart, be proactive, get ahead of people, get more information than people, gather information from better sources than other people, and just that's all part of just beating the crowd. I mean, what's the saying? Like, once you've heard about it, it's already too late or something? Or like, once you've heard of it from a big source, then so has everybody else, and you're now dead even with them. It's now currently a tie. That philosophy, I mean, that's based on real actual social actions that people take. Like, that is provable. So if you're just hearing about it on the biggest source, the biggest news channel, it's blowing up everywhere, it's on all the news channels, then everybody else heard about it at the same time you did, and you are now not ahead of them. So then you gotta hustle. Or just be aware, follow people who like to shout out this stuff like, oh man, I'm hearing rumblings here. Oh, it looks like this might be a thing. This might be a future headline here. The people who like to report on like the pre-news, the possibilities, without being alarmist and without constantly being wrong. Maybe take a little time out of your day and listen to them, what they have to say on their podcast or their YouTube channel or whatever. I'll tell you what, at least in the tech sector and like a little bit of politics, a little bit of science, I hear about stuff before it becomes major headlines on slashdot.org. I mean, day one, they're like, this software company announced this, and I'm like, oh wow, or this merger might, happen there, and I'm like, well, that's not a headline yet, but like, they're on it because it's so specific, and because they're all tech people, and it's really fast, and it's on the internet, and people check it daily. It's just faster than trying to run through like the major news sources, and then, oh, they throw it in when they feel like it, and that kind of stuff. It's just quicker. Like the hard drive shortage of 2014, you might have heard about that. The mudslides and flooding in like Thailand, and then all of a sudden they couldn't manufacture hard drives because like they're all made there. I heard about that the day it happened. They're like, oh, this chip facility, this hard drive facility, it had to shut down. A month from now, when the supply chain catches up, there's going to be a shortage. Well, all the major news sources are like, some techie thing, hard drive. Who wants to hear about electronics and a shortage that's a month out? Come on. But what they do report on, look at all these lines and look at these dramatic photos of empty shelves. There's already a shortage. Well, if that's who you're hearing it from, then you're now tied with everybody else. You want to be ahead of people, and that includes the initial place you're hearing about these shortages from. Now, I'm not part of this. I don't even go on Reddit very often, but I bet you, since there's a subreddit for everything, there's probably like a shortage alert or like a buyout alert or like a product issue subreddit or something out there that you could just, browse the headlines on daily and just, oh, there's a toothpaste shortage. Oh, or there might be, or it's possible, and here's why. If people who got their ears to the ground, kind of hear something, or people, work in like shipping industries, distribution, that kind of stuff, or they're higher ups at companies, and they want to jump on there and kind of let other people know, you want to be in that first group. So like I said, it's all just, multiple parts of being ahead of everybody else. That's how you head off something that you can't do anything reasonably about until it's already happening. Because like I said, it's not safe to have 50 gallons of gasoline in your garage, and it's going to go bad. Otherwise, I mean, for everything else that you can do something about, I'd be like, oh, what should you do for the next food shortage? Should you be listening for any hint of a food shortage? No, you should have a year's worth of food in your house right now, right this second. Go do it before there's a problem, because you can keep that stuff for a shelf life of 30 years if you go watch my other video on how to do that. Shameless self-promotion. And then you don't have to listen for a food shortage. You could hear about the food shortage a month after it already got severe, and just be like, I don't know, I've been eating all the food I've got in my basement. Oh, I'm set. Didn't even have to worry about it. Didn't even have to listen for any news about it. But fuel is every prepared person's blind spot, which is why I wanted to very extensively cover it in this little mini documentary podcast, whatever you want to call this kind of thing. Thanks for tuning in. And if you made it all the way to the end, hey, you might as well subscribe because obviously you like my content, my presentation, my level of detail instead of just stupid top 10 lists with half the information. You didn't really learn anything. Like all those gardening tips channels. My God, do I hate them. On this channel, I don't just tell you what to do, I tell you what not to do and how not to do it wrong, which is twice as important. If you want real skills, real knowledge, hit that subscribe button for more content that is extensive. It's like college course level of we're going to cover it start to finish. I'm going to tell you the why. I'm going to make sure you understand it at a fundamental level. I'm not just going to say, do this, take my word for it. I'm not going to explain it. Like it's a lot more long form content. Now, a lot of people are into that because this channel is super blown up lately. So hey, go check out the rest of the stuff I got posted so far. And there's a lot more coming soon, especially this summer. Thanks for watching in the meantime, though, and I will see you guys next time.